Welcome back to another episode of You're Not My Father. In this episode, we are not doing video because sometimes it's kind of nice to be just me with you and this mic in a dark room. Maybe that sounds a little weird, but there's something kind of like a confessional-like quality of it. Not in a religious confessional way, but of something like it's a private, intimate type of conversation that we're having. Again, not in a bad way, but just, between confidants, sharing these kind of details. The video, something about it is somewhat impractical for me to do because it requires a lot of editing, and I feel like I'm a little restrained from doing more of that. Or I just put it off, and I just wouldn't do what I would normally do if I just didn't do an audio podcast. So I'm back at it for this episode. I'm still going to do video stuff, but let's just jump into what today's episode is, which is kind of like a catch up of all the things that have been kind of going on in my life in the past several months. I've done some interviews with some people. I've done some interviews with Tyler Young, Travis Hare. I was going to call him Thomas Hare. He's going to kill me for that one. But I told him, I was like, look, just make me an honorary member of the Hare family. He said he did, so I'm okay with that. So where are we at? Where are we going back in time to? I think probably the best place to go in my mind is right around April. So let's kind of rewind and go back into April a little bit. We still kind of had some snow on the ground. We had, snow falling, things were melting. And, so kind of setting the tone in that way, temperature wise, because that's what Alaskans do. And so my daughter, Sophia, and this is where a lot of this is going to end up. She's kind of, in the past few years, she's kind of been I wouldn't say a loner, but sort of a loner in some way. She's had some friends, but I think she's had some challenges in that area. And now she's got a really close set of friends. And how to describe her friends? Their families aren't traditional families, so to speak. They're not really the nuclear family, if you will. There's some division there, fathers away, mothers and stuff like that. And, speaking from a dad perspective, I really see where God's perfect plan in having a man and a wife be that part of that family. And things start to kind of break down when there's not the mother in children's life, or there's not the father in the kid's life. And so there's imbalance there. And without that balance, things get a little weird. They don't have the support systems that they need to. And where am I going with this? Well, her friends are, I wouldn't say they get picked on, but they had a bully. And so one of Sophia's friends was being bullied, and not in a nice way. And I don't think that they were intentionally doing anything to this other girl that was in their grade. But what was going on was, they kind of kept to themselves. But for some reason, this was kind of drawing this aggravation, or aggression from this girl. And my daughter's kind of ambivalent. She's not going to back talk to anybody except for me and her mother and her brother. But she doesn't do that with other people. She's very polite and respectful in that way. And probably shy to boot. So this girl has been messing with her friend. And then one day she's walking home from school, and it was kind of weird because I was driving home and she was walking home, and she, the weather's nice, here in Alaska right now. And it was getting nice at that point. She wanted to walk home, and I was talking to her on the phone, and I saw these girls like in front of her, and they were like swinging sticks, which is kind of weird, like in Anchorage, to be just, it was just kind of odd. It was odd behavior. So it kind of stuck in my brain. Hey, something's going on. And, anyway, she said that the girls had said something to her or whatever. And then, so the next day, come to find out that same girl had said something to her, which is the one that's been, bullying her friend, had made some kind of snide remark to her, like she was going to jump her after school. It was like, okay. And so I guess they reported her. And then the next day she said it again, and she did it. She jumped her friend right at the end of school, like as soon as she came out of class, and just pushed her to the ground. So this altercation happened, and Sophia pulled her off of her friend and hit her, after she's beating up her friend on the ground, and tussle, all this stuff. And, she'd hit Sophia too. And long story short, it was like a 3-day period of like these hyper aggressive moves by this girl that ended in violence. Really, really bad. And, I think her mother just didn't know how to handle the situation. And so for me, it's like, okay, are you okay? I'm documenting stuff and taking pictures, and I go ahead and call the cops because I don't have any confidence in the school system here to resolve things, because I've seen things where they were trying to sell my daughter heroin right in front of the school, where there's teachers and staff right out there and they can see it. And they didn't blink an eye. This kid that tried to sell Sophia heroin, like, nothing really happened to this kid. And there's this kind of pattern of abuse and things that were kind of going on. And I was like, I want to protect my daughter from this happening. Like this is uncalled for. And I'm not going to let her be this bully's punching bag for whatever reason. And I'm also not going to let her friend do that, because her friend's been staying with us quite a bit. Kind of joke, kind of like our adopted daughter and stuff like that. But, she didn't really have like her, like, she's got a dad in her life, but I guess, he's away. I don't know how far. I don't get into details, but he's not there to do what dads do. And so I kind of was like, if you're in my house, you're staying here, you're my family, I'm going to take care of you the same way. So, I was really bold about what I was doing, and I kept her mother up to date with the whole process. But, we went down and got restraining orders, protective custody orders. And, we ended up talking to the school, and they were apologetic, but they didn't really have a game plan. It didn't sound like they were expecting us to do this. And then it also just didn't seem like they were, wanting to obey the protective custody order, because they had to be apart so many feet. And, I think they suspended this girl for like 2 days or something like that, which to me is, I don't know. So anyway, long story short, filed a police report, all this other stuff. And, the girl's still just violating this protective custody order, like in front of him. So, I go down there, and actually I didn't go down first. I called the vice principal, and the vice principal says, yeah, I will make sure that this girl gets on the bus myself and she goes home, and, there won't be any altercation after school. And I believe him. I believe it. Man, I'm going to drive up here and pick my daughter up, and there won't be any problem. Well, guess what? The vice principal never got her on the bus. This girl didn't get on the bus, and she's following them around, giving them evil eyes, almost like she's going to jump them again. And so I get the girls, and I go in, I talk to the vice principal. I'm like, what's going on? It's kind of like one of these Seinfeld, what's the deal? Why aren't you doing your job? I laugh now, but then I was being serious about it. And, I had all the girls. So like one of her other friends was also, kind of somewhat involved in it. And, I I was very polite. I was very professional, but I was very much in like, this needs to stop. What are we going to do about it? And, so I think the next day they ended up calling in the school resource officer. And so this has been like the weekend plus 2 business days, or 3 really. And they still haven't quite figured out what was going on. Come to find out, APD hadn't even served this protective custody order, and they didn't know where she lived. And it's like, we are at the school. You're in front of the vice principal. Couldn't you look up that record? Isn't this kind of how this needs to be facilitated? And, yeah, I wasn't being snarky about it, but I was just, you know, this would appear that this is how you would do it, wouldn't you? I mean, if I was in your position, this is probably the first thing I would do. So anyway, red tape, blah, 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 blah. You know, she kept away from her. There were still some things that were kind of going on, but nothing really major. But for a while, it was pretty interesting. You know, the fact that, you know, we believed that she lived in our neighborhood and maybe still does. We don't know for sure. And was walking by our house, and her parents didn't seem to care. Didn't seem to care that, you know, they had 2 protective custody orders and filing charges, and their daughter was still, I don't know. You know, I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot for the girl. I prayed a lot for her family, you know, and also I prayed for our safety. You know, ultimately, I didn't want to have anything to do with this girl. You know, could I have been the better man and tried to do something? You know, I don't know. I felt like I was kind of like at a crossroads. I felt like the Christian thing to do would have been to try to bring some kind of peace. But in some ways, my strategic mind kind of felt like it was going to get worse. You know, that by doing that, what if her family was, I don't know. I didn't feel like there was going to be any good that would come out of it. So when they wanted to discuss it with us, I declined. You know, I didn't want to all of a sudden, you know, there's adult aggression coming on to us for us just living our lives and not, you know, minding our own business. And so I just kind of left it at that. And then luckily, you know, the school year ended pretty quick. You know, there was like I think 2 or 3 weeks afterwards that just kind of went by, and that was that. And, I think it kind of brought us a little closer together as a family of some sorts, having to kind of go through that process, you know, getting off of work and going to a courthouse and filling out the stuff, talking to a judge and police and whatnot. And honestly, it's not too new to me. You know, I don't have a criminal background, but, you know, my family, my dad was law enforcement. I've done law enforcement things. It's not too intimidating, but I can see where it would be intimidating to somebody else. And so I think the advice that I would give you, you know, if you're in the position where your children are being abused, at school, mocked, bullied, do not stand for it at all. My dad never did. He was adamant. And, I think I got a spanking or paddling at one point in time. And, you know, he was a deputy sheriff at that point. And I think he came down and talked to the principal, basically threatened him, you know, you'll never touch my son again. You know, if you're going to do something to somebody in this family, you'll do it to me. Paraphrasing that, of course. Now, my dad was the whole blood and guts routine, you know. And I'm not that. I'm not that at all. And I'm not saying to do that, but stand up for your children. Be the father that you need to be. Get in there. Just don't let that happen to them. You are one of the only people in the world that will stand up for them, truly stand up for them. And you need to go in there and do it. Sometimes it calls for you to be aggressive, to not necessarily say shoot from the hip, but, just react in a good way. Without violence, without hate, just have a solid plan. So that was one part of it. And I've been lucky, and I feel blessed that, well, before I get into that, let me tell you something else personal. And this episode's got all kinds of personal stuff in it. And it just is. It's one of those episodes. Really pulling all these things from the heart here. Sharing. So, before we talk about this intimate type of conversation, it really is. Even though I'm sending out to the internet. Anyway, we've got 2 kids. Technically, I've got 3. We've got a third that I'm still trying to talk to. I'll give you an update on him. I was talking to a guy in my life group, and this is kind of going to circle around a little bit, but not my life group. Sorry, I've got a life group and a Bible study group. My men's Bible study group is great, and there's a gentleman in my study group named Mark. I won't say his last name, but his name's Mark, and he's a really great guy. I think he's a little bit older than me, but he's got some kids, and some of them are older, some are younger, and he's had a lot of experiences. He's had a lot of rough experiences with his sons, and he just keeps encouraging me to be positive and just keep trying to communicate with Henry, my first son that I've never really talked to in person. And so I've been messaging him on Facebook and just here and there, and just telling him I'm thinking about him. And I just try to keep him in my thoughts. And it gets difficult sometimes, I don't get to see him. I don't get to talk to him. I mean, the only thing I ever really get to know about him is just whatever ends up on social media. And, it saddens me that I've missed so much of his childhood. He's 18 now. And I'm starting to miss those young adult years. And, I still pray that, he's doing well, and that someday I'll get a chance to be a part of his life. But on the flip side, it may just never happen. But I still keep thinking about him, and I tell him I'm here for him. All he's got to do is reach out to me. And once a year, maybe he says something or gives me some kind of glimmer of hope that says maybe he's interested or whatnot. And ultimately, I don't know. I really don't. And it's sad, but I'm still hopeful. So I keep praying, and I'm thankful that I have other men, that are able to mentor me and guide me, in some of these things. Because if I didn't, I'd be lost. I figure maybe I'd be stupid and demand an ultimatum or demand some kind of communication or whatever. And, to me, it's all about love. And it helps to have iron sharpen iron. And those men that, they've walked that path before. And maybe they didn't do it the right way. And it's kind of like this podcast. I hope that I am part of some iron that sharpens you, in some way. But I still continue to pray for Henry. I love him, one day, but, I've felt like we've been so blessed. Well, we are blessed. I'll just tell you that. And I thought about having another child for a moment. And I'm like, well, age-wise, maybe it's not such a good idea. The Lord provides. And, I was lucky enough to watch this movie called, and I forget it every time. I think I've mentioned it on podcasts. I think it's Show Me the Father. Anyway, people banging and noises. This is what happens. You want more kids? You want more noise in your house? Yeah, I do. It made me, I'd thought about adopting kids, over the years. And, I started maybe getting a little bit more serious about it. I asked some men in the church about it, and they gave me some advice, and, I continued to pray about it and think about it, and my wife was like, eh. And, after this whole bully thing and whatnot, I'm in the principal's office, or not in the office, I'm right outside it. They're interviewing the kids one-on-one, and I'm sitting outside, and I'm like, really, these girls' fathers should be here, and they're not. And one of them's in prison, and I'm just like, I'm their dad in that way today, at this point in time, right now. Not a forever thing or whatever, but at this point in time, this is the role I'm playing, and that's what I was doing. And I thought about all the times that when I was growing up, whenever my dad was gone, he was in Alaska, he was overseas, he was working, he was not around, or my mother wasn't, she was busy doing her things, and kind of free range kids and stuff like that. And the friends that I was hanging out with, their parents took care of me. A lot of times it was mothers that were really just amazing people to me, and bought me things, took care of me. I even had a girlfriend whose mother, she was kind of like that mother figure in a lot of ways. Even took me to the dentist and got me fillings when I needed them. And I'm so thankful for these people, and I don't forget them. Not at all. Whatever circumstances and time and distance, put us apart, I still remember them fondly, and I'm still thankful for them. And so, as my daughter has all these people kids coming and hanging out and staying with us, to me, I feel like that's the place where I can be that light to somebody else, to help them out, in their blessings, because their father's in prison. Does he care? Or, their father's not here. Do they care? And I'm like, they're here now. It's like, what can I do to help them, to put a smile on their face, to give them wisdom, to mentor them, to bring them to Christ, to take them to church as often as I can, and to get them, to witness to them. I feel like that's my calling. That's, instead of adopting one child, I'm adopting all these kids that are going to come through our lives over the years, like how I was. And, I feel pretty good about that. And I just, yeah. And what else is going on? Oh man, I play guitar. I say I play guitar. I play guitar. Not really great. Um, okay. And I feel like it's saying something to say that I'm okay. Um, but at church, I was looking at the worship services, and I'm so inspired by the passion and the energy and the the way that they perform. It really is, it glorifies God in so many different ways. And I felt like, why do I play guitar? I mean, I enjoy it, but what plan does God have for me? And I wasn't sure. I just don't know. I mean, maybe God doesn't have a plan. Why would I know all this music stuff? Why would I do all this stuff? I mean, I enjoy it, but like, what's the end result, God? Like, where are we going? And I was like, I talked to one of the guys in church about it, and he was like, he's kind of a shy guy too, and he doesn't look like he's shy, but I guess whenever you get to this age, all guys just look, gruff and whatever. And you kind of find out like we're all kind of essentially the same, which is, it's comforting. It's comforting to know that, like, hey, we're all just a bunch of kids rolling around with beards or, responsibilities and jobs and stuff like that. And, we all have the same wants and needs and desires and fears and anxieties about life in general. And it's something that you can kind of share. But anyway, he was telling me about it, and he was like, yeah, he was giving me his spiel on, like, how he got in there and stuff. And you really should do it. You should do it. Just jump into it and do it. And man, I don't think so. I want to, but I'm just, I'm so intimidated by doing that to even playing. And so I was talking to our worship minister about it, and he's like, yeah, you should do it. You should do it. And, he gave me some stuff to do. And, I'm working through it, and I'm just like, I'm just overanalyzing things, and just, it was stressing me out. It really, really was. And, I told him, I was like, I don't really want to waste your time. I just feel like maybe now is not the right time. Like, I want to do it, but it's stressing me out, and, it will take me so much time to learn all these songs. And, I was like, maybe you just fit me somewhere else, like somewhere else in the worship service that doesn't involve me being on stage and learning these songs. And, we had a really good talk. And so he slotted me in the media service. So, I did, like 4 weekends of like shadowing, and then, doing, and then having somebody watch me. And then I did, like my own service by myself. It was really cool. I got to sit through, so for like 5 weeks, I got to sit through like 2 services. I got to get there early, and I got to hang out, and, in the back of my mind, whatever, I'm like watching the worship service and stuff like that. Like the back of my mind, like I'm like the drums, and I'm paying attention to the things that are going on. And, I would say like half and half the time I'm like looking at all the details, and I'm just kind of focused into that because that's just where my brain's at. And then the other half, like, then I actually get into the song, and like, I kind of get lost in it, and, I have that wonderful time with it. And, so I'm doing the media, I'm flipping through slides and all this other stuff. And I guess from a certain perspective, I'm like a glorified PowerPoint presenter person. But it's kind of like locked in step with all these songs. So, and other stuff. So it's not as attention to detail, but it is attention to detail. And so there's a couple times where, I'm singing along the song and I get lost in it, and then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta flip the slide. So, it's a great place for me to be. And, what else? So that's kind of gotten me down this path of service, of wanting to help, to be a part of, bringing people to God's light, and to witness to them and show them his love, and to try to be able to articulate God's word. I'm a big talker, but when it comes to being able to minister to other people and say things correctly, I feel like it's just stumbling blocks, like I'm falling all over myself in so many ways. And, to be more involved in the process, to be there and to just kind of saturate myself with it and to learn and educate myself, has been, its own blessing, its own reward to be kind of nurtured and strengthened and emboldened, with God's love in our community, in our church. And so they had a call out for Vacation Bible School, and I've never done anything with children's ministry. And I was like, well, who am I? I'm like, if I stumble at saying things, I mean, how can I even be that person? How could I help? And I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't see that. And then, I was talking to one of our pastors. He does our men's Bible study. Great guy. And he's like, just do it. We just, you can be a helper. Just be a part of it. And, it was great. We had like a form you could fill out some of the areas that you wanted to be in. And so I got to be one of the team leaders. I was like, okay. Of course, I wasn't the leader for that team. So that was great. But I like to think I'm great with kids, and, I had fun with them, and I really enjoyed it, and getting to know some of the kids. And, by the end of it, I felt like maybe I learned more from VBS than some of the kids, the message is targeted at a kid's level, but as an adult, it was pretty easy to catch, but so good. I mean, so fulfilling and interesting. So, I had some really great spiritual moments during VBS, and by the end, I was so thankful to have been a part of it. And, I really miss my team here. I got to know them, and I was just like, it was 4 nights, and, we did a lot, and it was just like, I felt like there was more to do with those kids. And so, the call went out, they needed some help in the kids ministry. And so my buddy, Jesse had done some of that, and it sounded like it wasn't too terribly bad. So I was like, okay. I felt so jazzed about VBS. I was like, let's do this. Let's jump into that. And so I did. And I was really nervous at first. And then I was like, it happened. I was like, that was pretty cool. Like, there were some of, my kids from VBS in my class. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, I feel like there's this journey, we're going to go on together as like this church family, and maybe these kids are going to get older, and, they'll be, with Conan and Sophia, and, who knows what that might be. But, it was just, I'm learning. I'm learning in, Sunday school, and being an assistant, and just kind of being eager to serve, eager to help, bring these kids to God's word, bring the word to them. Just really, really cool. And so now I'm kind of committed. Now I'm doing stuff in the worship service media stuff, and I'm doing some stuff upstairs, and it's great. You know, on the weekends I would, you know, play video games, do whatever, or, you know, maybe do nothing, or maybe I'd do something. I don't know. But now I feel like well, I know I'm doing something that actually is impactful in somebody else's life. I'm helping them, and also helping myself at the same time, my family. And it's been wonderful. Really, really, really wonderful. And God's love is just, yeah, there's so much that's happened, you know, the men's study group, Bible study group, so good, so good. Here's another personal story number 3 or 4. I don't know which one it is. So one of the guys in our Bible study group, you know, there was just something, you know, kind of about him, you know, like he just seemed kind of like familiar. I don't know what it was, but, you know, I talked to him every once in a while, and, I don't know what it was. It was just something like I just kind of kept in contact with him, and, we went into like this class after that movie, that fatherhood movie that I was telling you about. And so we were in there and we got to talk a little bit more. And then over the holidays, you know, I was talking with him in there, and, he was having some challenges. And I told him, I was like, hey man, you're welcome to, you know, have a Christmas dinner with us, or Thanksgiving, or one of those holiday dinners or whatever. And, I was like, you know, I'll even bring you a care package, no problem. But you know, he declined. He didn't, he was sorting some stuff out. And so we kind of, you know, I'd see him here and there and stuff like that. And then, I think it was like a month or so ago, I just got through working the media booth, and I was coming out, and I see my pastor there with him, and they're talking, and I was like, hey man, how's it going? Blah, 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 and whatever. And, you know, they were talking about jobs, and he mentioned, you know, he was trying to find some job and whatever. I was like, you know, I'd give you a job if I could hire you, if you had the skill set. And he's like, really? And I didn't know what he did before. And so he told me, and I was like, heck yeah. I mean, yeah. And so, I mean, we just kind of started talking, and it sort of progressed from, you know, a conversation into something more. And it was like, you know, normally at my business, whenever we hire somebody, it's a pretty intense process. It's not too bad. I mean, it's not like you should be scared or intimidated by it, but I mean, we go through like a lot of, you know, interviews and questions, and, it's like two interviews, and actually it's multiple interviews, and all these policies and procedures and stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of that is kind of geared towards trying to get to know the person, and to find out information that you probably couldn't ask them outright, but maybe you need to glean from them. A lot of it's character assessments, skill levels, that type of thing. But, you know, at the end of the day, you really need a good person, a really great person that can take on these things and learn them and excel. Because in the industry that we're in, nobody really wants to jump in and be a part of that industry. You know, it's not like fighter pilots, jet pilots. You know, I've seen Top Gun. Which one? 1 or 2? Both. Hey, I want to be a fighter pilot. That just doesn't happen. There's no movies about our industry, that are exciting. You know, Brad Pitt's never played anybody in our industry. There's nothing sexy or glamorous about it. It's, you know, it is what it is. And so most people just probably don't even want to be interested in it. And, you know, I started talking to him more and more about, like, you know, what we do. And, you know, well, some of his skills are very related, but, yeah, I was talking to my business partner. You know, we go to church together. You know, they sort of know each other. We're in the same, Bible study group. And we, yeah, there were some inversions that we kind of had to work through. But, you know, at the end of the day, we were like, this is kind of where God's taken us. And we kind of didn't do all the crazy stuff because, you know, honestly, we'd kind of been working on some of this for like the past 6 months or plus. So yeah, now he works for us. And honestly, it's amazing. It's amazing. Oh my God. It's the things that God will do in your life. I know that sounds weird. I know it sounds weird. It's got to sound weird to people that, you know, I would make a business decision off of something like that. And honestly, I feel like, why haven't I been making more of these decisions? And I'll tell you why. It's because I wasn't always owning the company. So that's number one reason. Well, two, and I wasn't probably mature enough to do that. And now at this point, I feel like I am in a good position. But it's been great. It really has. So I feel like the future's so good. Like God's just blessed us and continues to do it. And it's like, how can I help you out, God? You keep helping me. How can I do more for you? Yeah. So yeah, I'm just always looking for an opportunity to serve, to do better, to help somebody else out. And I feel like with this guy, you know, our new employee, you know, I gave him a chance that I don't think anybody else would. You know, for, you know, some reasons that I can't really divulge, but, yeah. So really, really good stuff. And so we're like right around the 45-minute mark. So, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Congratulations. You've listened to 45 minutes of me talking. This part is more difficult to talk about. Probably because I just haven't told that many people. And on top of that, I'm telling the internet. But I'm guessing that most people just haven't or won't make it this far to know. But yeah, I've had struggles with my weight. And if you're a long time listener to this show, you've heard me probably talk about keto and how well it did for me. And it did do well for me. And then the holidays happened and I went on vacation on a cruise, and well, it just went to hell in a handbag. It was gone. And then it was hard for me to jump back in it. And, you know, for the past 6 months, I've just kind of ate whatever I wanted to. Like the vacation just kept on rolling. And, I don't feel like I ate too much, but also like the snow and everything just kind of, I mean, I'll just be real with it, is, you know, wintertime in Alaska is just not something that keeps me active and busy. And honestly, I've been so busy with other stuff that I haven't made time for myself. And that's not just a 1 year thing. This has been several year type of thing in the wintertime. And, let's face it, like half the year is winter. So half of the year, I'm not being good to myself and my body, and I'm getting older. And, yeah, it was catching up with me. I thought like, well, maybe it's time to try to do something else. So, I went to Weight Watchers because I kept hearing about these Wegovy and GLP-1 drugs and stuff like that. And, you know, it sounded like it was really worth doing, you know, for people, in my situation. You know, it was doing really, really well. And so I was like, you know, I'll do that, you know. And so I signed up for Weight Watchers. They kind of filled out like this questionnaire and stuff like that, body mass and, you know, weight and stuff like that, which was intimidating to get on the scale and just, hey, this is where I'm at. And, they're like, we want to do some blood work. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so the last time I had a physical was 2020. So it's like 4 years ago. And, outside of being overweight, and I think my bad cholesterol was just like a tiny bit over normal. I was in pretty good shape, and I kind of was like, hey, I'm good. Well, this time that didn't exactly fly for me. So they told me that, my AC1 or whatever, it's the blood sugar count was 7. It's 7 or 6. Whatever it was, the number was like, this is like the borderline number where you get diagnosed as diabetic. And I was like, oh. I was like, And so it took me a little bit of time to sink in. And I was going to tell Julie, I didn't tell her right away. I just kind of came home and I went to the movies, and I got the results right as soon as I walked out of the movies, of course. And so I'm coming home, and I'm just like, I'm like, what am I going to do? And, well, the first thing I did was I just stopped eating and jumped back on keto, because what I was reading was, keto is kind of like one of those things that works really well for diabetes. And, so on the flip side of it, do I have diabetes? Really? I don't know for sure. But it kind of emboldened me to like, you have some serious thinking to do, young man, middle-aged man, old man, whatever I'm calling myself. You need to make a change, and you need to do it, or else, you're going to waste it all away. And, so anyway, I don't know if it turned out to be for the best, but, I got approved for a GLP-1 medication. And so far I've lost, like 12 pounds in 2 weeks, probably a little faster than it probably should have been. And I took my first shot almost exactly a week ago, so I have to take another shot tomorrow. And so far it's worked out pretty well. In the back of my mind, the whole diabetes thing and getting old and dealing with your own mortality is still a bit of a challenge. But I'm up for it. I'm up for that challenge. I'm getting into it, and I continue to pray for God to heal my body and make me lose weight and get to be the man that I think God's destined for me to be, and to manage and be in better shape and be that father that is much more active and does these cool things with his kids and whatnot. So it was kind of a sad and intimidating few days to really kind of truly understand what was going on. And, but keto's worked out for me really well. It's a bit boring. I feel like, I haven't had a cheat day yet. I've had a couple of nibbles of carb things that were, when I say nibble, I mean like really truly a nibble. The fear of diabetes is a big intimidator. But it's also a big motivator too. So it's helping me kind of get along. And, what was it, last week? Well, I think about a week and so ago, I found out about Anytime Fitness. Like, anytime, really? And so it's generally kind of close to my house. And so I signed up, and when I signed up, I set up an appointment to talk to a personal trainer, which is something usually every time I sign up for a gym membership, I always decline it. I don't do. And I'm like, well, this is different. Everything's different about this time. And, so I signed up. They did some kind of body spectrum analysis of my body, And, yeah, I was going pretty regular. And then I did my first class, I think it was Thursday. And, it really kicked my ass. Totally. It was, I mean, it wasn't like I was like bench pressing and doing all this other stuff or whatever. I feel like if I'd done that, like I probably would have been, maybe not so sore and tired from it. But a lot of it was like body weight exercises and aerobic weird things that I'd never done before, like, mountain climbers and this weird thing where I grab a hold of these ropes and I lean back and I walk my feet forward and I keep leaning and having my arms outstretched, and it just weird stuff. And, I was so sore Friday, I just couldn't go to gym. And then Saturday what did I do on Saturday? Yeah, I was still sore. And, anyway, so it's Monday and I haven't been back yet. I think I did something yesterday. Yeah, I think we ran around quite a bit. I was out and about a bit. And then today we did like 2 hours in a museum, and I didn't say I was going up and down a lot of stairs, but I was walking around pretty good clip. So I feel like I got my exercise in for sure. Tomorrow I'm definitely going to go to the gym. I think I'm just going to do it early in the morning or somewhat mid-morning and just kind of go ahead and get out of the way. But, like fitness and nutrition is kind of my jam now, and, part of me is like, that sounds stupid. You've only been doing this for like 2 weeks now. How is it so much whatever? And I'll tell you why. It's motivation and, intimidation and, looking for another Asian word. But it's faith. I feel like God has put me on this path and I need to stay on it. And so, yeah. So yeah. I guess this is personal as I can get for one episode. I mean, I can't tell you everything, but I think this is pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I could probably try to jam in more stuff, but I'm not. But thanks for listening. If you've listened this far, you the real MVP, truly. And, yeah, thanks for continuing to listen to this. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. It's been really therapeutic for me. And, it truly makes me realize how blessed I've been and continue to be. So I hope that God blesses you and your family, and that he inspires you and motivates you to do wonderful things, and do those things for his glory and for the benefit of other people. Truly serving other people, I think, is really part of why we're here, to love and to help, without getting too deep into it. So anyway, from Anchorage, Alaska, this is Thomas Brando, Greenman. Thanks for being true believers, and we'll see you next time.